mentioned stochastic terrorism in in a conversation with a caller in the previous hour. I want to amplify that or expand on that. This stochastic terrorism is where a person makes claims, assertions, calls for actions, whatever, that are not specifically asking for terroristic response. But the people who hear that message think, oh yeah, I have to do something about this. Bill O'Reilly saying Tiller the baby killer 20 some odd times, leading directly to a man murdering Dr. George Tiller in his church, for example. I think it's a reasonable example of that sort of thing. And I would argue that what Donald Trump is doing right now, and in particular what he did yesterday by releasing a video about the FBI raid on his home, which the FBI was not publicizing. The FBI did not do in the kind of way that they typically do when they do a raid, you know, with the FBI nylon windbreakers with big FBI letters on them and things. They did not do that. You know, anybody at Mar-a-Lago, and the people visiting, the people staying there, the people in the bar and the restaurant, they had no idea the FBI was there. You know, a small group of people, men and women in business suits, showed up and, you know, presented their credentials to the manager of the hotel and said, you know, we're here to look for this and this and this, and here's our search warrant, and you know, we're going to go here and there. And they said fine, and they escorted them around, and you know they were there all day, and they got what they wanted, and they left with it. And that would have been the end of it. We literally never would have known it happened if it wasn't for the fact that Donald Trump not just publicized it, but publicized it in a way to make himself appear the victim, and make himself appear the victim of something large, some large national left-wing conspiracy. And the consequence of that, of course, is this morning a guy in Cincinnati with a bunch of guns showed up at the FBI headquarters, and that thing is still ongoing, apparently. You know, they're chasing the guy, but he tried to breach the FBI headquarters in Cincinnati. And, you know, we'll have more details on that as time goes on, because it's still an evolving story. But also we're seeing, you know, all over, you know, like on Trump's failed social media platform, you've got messages threatening the judge who signed the search warrant. They've now taken down his name, but his name and his address and the names of his children and his wife have been posted on Trump media, Trump-friendly media. Whether it's Truth Social, you know, Trump's failed social media company, or whether it's some of these other message boards that are, you know, pro-Trump. One of the messages says, and I quote, "Let's find out if he has children, where they go to school, where they live, everything." And then somebody else posted the judge's name, his address, his phone number, and members of his family, along with pictures. And other people responded to that with violent threats. Like one guy said, this was on a pro-Trump message board. It was called the Donald. This is a piece of, you know, S-word judge who approved FBI's raid on Mar-a-Lago. I see a rope around his neck. Another person on another message board said, I don't give an F anymore. Name, address, put all that S up here. You know, in other words, we're going to go after this guy. The judge is Jewish, so of course, these being Trump followers, there were all kinds of anti-Semitic slurs. Oh, it's the Jews out to get him, et cetera, et cetera. And it turns out that, according to the New York Post, now this, you know, again, this is Murdoch's media. This judge, back before he was a judge, when he was a lawyer, had worked for a client who was an employee of Jeffrey Epstein. The judge had never worked with Jeffrey Epstein, didn't know Jeffrey Epstein, had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, but had defended one of Epstein's employees at some point for something. And that's been twisted by the New York Post and other right-wing media to suggest that this judge is somehow involved in the Epstein crimes and cover-ups, which play into the whole, you know, QAnon theory that Democrats are pedophiles drinking the blood of children. We see, one of the top comments on patriots.win, this is a pro-Trump comment forum, is lock and load. Another user asks, are we not in a cold civil war at this point? Another suggests that violence is imminent with, quote, authentic pain coming soon. Kenny Stanzel writing about this over at commondreams.org. Another commenter says, Trump has only to ask us. None of this demonstrating in the snow crap. Summertime was made for killing fields. Fox News and so-called news hosts and guests are disparaging the Mar-a-Lago search. One said it was, quote, a partisan witch hunt. Another said it was, quote, a dark day for our republic. Another said it was a preemptive coup. Another called it third world BS. And another said that it was the work of the Gestapo and the Stasi. Marco Rubio, little Marco, he tweeted that the Biden White House, quote, is using government power to persecute, political opponents. Something that we've seen many times from authoritarian regimes and impoverished nations, but never before in America. Really? Never before in America has the FBI gone after a criminal? Jim Jordan, the guy who covered up the sexual abuse or is alleged to have in the school where he was a wrestling coach, echoed that message. Kevin McCarthy said, quote, when Republicans take back the House, we will conduct immediate oversight of the Department of Justice. We will follow the facts and leave no stone unturned. Said to Merrick Garland, preserve your documents and clear your calendar. He's desperately, wants to become Speaker of the House if the Republicans could take back the House. He concluded that, quote, the Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponized politicization. Romney McDaniel, the chair of the Republican Party, said, quote, Democrats continually weaponize the bureaucracy against Republicans. This is what you call victimhood, right? This is building yourself up as the victim and trying to get sympathy based on that. And again, I believe that this is also an incitement to stochastic terrorism, and we're seeing that right now in Cincinnati. The shovel.com.au, an Australian website, posted a fascinating little piece this morning that an old friend of mine, Michael Kurland, he's a brilliant science fiction writer, forwarded to me an email this morning. It says, and I'll just share it with you because it's just so precious. It's so well written. We are certainly no fans of Donald Trump. Let's make that clear from the outset. But yesterday's raid by the FBI on the home of a former president sets a dangerous precedent. A precedent which now means that anyone who evades taxes, attempts to undermine an election, sexually assaults women, manipulates the value of their assets, uses state resources to enrich themselves, or aids and abets the overthrow of a democratically elected government will now be subject to investigation. Is this the world we want to live in, where anyone accused of insurrection can be subject to questioning from law enforcement officers? It's a slippery slope. Before we know it, regular citizens accused of defrauding the government, concealing evidence, manipulating financial documents, or perverting the course of justice will also be held to account. Or to put it another way, if we simply shrug our shoulders and fail to question the actions of the FBI, soon any old Joe citizen who's suspected of ripping classified documents into small pieces and flushing them down the toilet will be obliged to answer to law enforcement, as well as to their plumber, of course. If we don't ask the hard questions about the potential motives of the FBI now, soon any one of us who buries our ex-wife in a small grave at the side of our golf course in order to gain a tax concession will be treated with suspicion. As Trump supporters put it so clearly yesterday, if this can happen to a president, it can happen to anyone who's committed insurrection, assault, or fraud. And that's chilling. We're on new ground here. As Donald Trump himself made clear, this is the first time a former president's home has been raided. Proof, if ever we needed it, that the FBI shamefully only targets people who it thinks has committed a crime. Who gave FBI Director Chris Wray that authority? As we made clear at the start, we're certainly not Trump supporters, but in today's partisan world, it would be easy to fall into the trap of cheering on the FBI's activities without taking a step back to look at the bigger picture. If Trump goes to jail, it opens the door for every lying, corrupt, perverted piece of crap to go to jail too. Is that what we want? Well, apparently not. So anyway, it's an interesting moment, but you know, I seem to be making fun of this. Obviously, you know, this Australian website was, but this is serious stuff. This is very serious stuff. When Donald Trump is trying to claim that the FBI is coming after him for politics rather than for a crime, that is a very serious accusation, and people around the country are responding to it